Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you may be. This is the overnight. I am DM Foss, and tonight we have G Webs. How's it going, G Webs?
Good. Thanks for the invite.
And Baron SVG. How you doing, Baron?
Pretty good.
Well, that's good to hear. I remembered. Yep. At the bottom of the screen, there's email address, untacticalfoss@gmail.com. And a link. You can send in comments, suggestions, or pictures within reason. Anything we talk about, agree with, disagree with, think we got right, got wrong, you can let me know. And if you watch this in replay, leave a comment, whatever we talk about. I always read the comments, and they're always appreciated. So far out there was G23. MC, who I believe went to bed already, and 2 live move. Good evening, everybody. So tonight, I think we're probably mainly going to cover. I went to our state Senate hearings on some anti-gun bills, and I've clipped some of the testimonies. And I wanted to go through and look at a few of them, and look at, kind of analyze them, what they say, how they say them, how I thought they came across. Because I think they are, for our Senate, they're going to fall on the pro-gun side. They'll fall on deaf ears. But I think they're still important for those who watch the hearings and either do not have a position or are not the dead set anti-gunner, mom demand action types, which is important, I believe, for the future, because the more people that are willing to vote to protect the Second Amendment will protect the Second Amendment in the future. So hopefully to stop these bills from coming up, where more people will oppose them, and there is a louder voice saying no, which I could be wrong. This is my opinion, and I don't speak for anybody else who's on the panel today. But I think that's one reason, because I wasn't sure. Not this hearing I knew I was going to go to, but the hearing before that, there was another couple anti-gun bills, and I was kind of in a malaise where what difference does it make? They're going to vote these anti-gun bills through. They're not going to care. And it was Guns and Barbecues, watching one of his chats, and I realized, well, no, it kind of shamed me. His 2A-ness shamed me into standing up. Whether
Did he wipe his 2A-ness on you, or just show his 2A-ness?
No, he showed it. Whether this gets passed or not, I felt the need to be there, to stand up for what I felt was right. And it would be nice if more people would do that, especially this last one, because the Moms Demand Action bus was there this time. So they all wear orange or red, and it's a great photo op for them, where they stand out. And there was half, or probably more than half, had the orange or red shirt. So if there's pictures taken and put in the paper, it looks like a large percentage of people are supporting these anti-gun bills. If you look at who signed in to support or oppose, like the assault weapons ban bill, there were 1,000 that signed in to support it, and there were 6,000 that signed in to oppose it. But those are numbers that aren't going to show up in the newspaper. Now, you'll just see the picture of all the Moms Demand Action people. So I wanted to go through some of the testimonies, and some of them I thought were great. There were some great testimonies that were given against these bills. And there were some that weren't so great, and I wanted to look at those too. And then a couple of them are the given by anti-gun, which, we'll take a look at those and then talk about those too. And I thought there were 2 anti-gun bills, but actually there were 3. I can't remember if there was kind of a 4th one. It had to do with sentence enhancements for punishment, where if there's a crime committed with a gun, then there's an enhancement on top of it. And I don't believe in the enhancements. If you commit a violent crime, I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter what weapon or tool you used, whether it was a hammer or a gun, it's a violent crime. And if there's a problem, then maybe up the sentencing for that crime.
That's where we disagree. I believe in mandatory enhancements.
So and part of that was to give judges more leeway on whether to enact these enhancements or not. And in the bill, I think in the bill, I know some of the testimony addressed gun enhancements. So I would consider that kind of a gun bill,
I feel like if you've enhanced your gun, then you should get your crime enhanced also, your criminal charges enhanced.
Well, there's a lot of people who think that. So
it's just common sense enhancing.
Yeah, that's you hear that a lot, the common sense. And usually as soon as somebody says common sense anything, I just kind of tune out, because I know whatever follows the common sense is going to be BS.
They're usually the same people that would blow their foot off if you handed them a loaded gun.
But if you allow them to win by bringing up old arguments, then we never move forward, right? When they're going to bring up common sense, then I think the best thing to do is have an argument against, like, to challenge the common sense, unless they said something else that's worth challenging better. But instead of saying "oh" and walking away, then they win. Like, common sense. Can you tell me how it's common sense to take away just one dangerous item from somebody who might be hurting, someone who might need help, and you're going to go in and create stress and take away one dangerous item? It might feel good on paper, but how is that common sense? Something like that, I think, is.
Well, that'll come up in some of these testimonies. It's why I clip them to show, because they do that. It's more than just screaming, shall not be infringed, or my rights, which
Okay, good.
It's true that it is your rights,
but they need to hear other things to appeal to their understanding.
And so I guess we can just get into the video. So let me say a quick hello to Michael.
So is this like the C-SPAN that we're going to watch, like an official thing?
Yeah, they're from the states, the TVW, the basically state C-SPAN. Larry Knopf is out there. And the first one,
you can join if you go to the Gilded. It's free.
First one is Alex. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen.
What's the deal? Are these queued up, or you just got the one big video and you just found timestamps where people are?
No, I've got each clip in a different tab.
I guess
So
what I'm saying is, did the government chop them up, or the government?
No, I did.
Everybody one big file. Okay.
I went through and then picked out what I wanted and then
Okay.
edited the clips. Each of them are about 2 minutes long. Some of them are a little shorter.
Stream from there? Was there any like live footage from it? Because I saw live footage from the federal ATF one, and I saw live footage from Barbecue redoing the Pennsylvania one.
There is. You can, if you go to the TVW.
Just the state though. No gun advocates, no gun rights people.
Not that I know.
I didn't see anyone streaming it.
Okay.
I know C&T Designs and Arms, Coop. He played a little bit on his, but he looked at Washington, Minnesota.
Yeah, this happened the same day as somebody else's. Also.
Yeah, there was a bunch going on, so he looked at a bunch of them. So I don't know if how much of each he looked at, but the first one is Alex Leung, and he is a student from Hong Kong, and he was the first guy to testify. And this was a bill dealing with. It was going to be a permit to purchase permit, and they dropped that out of the bill. So now it's just training. I think that's this one. I didn't take notes, but so it's mandatory training and
for everything.
Yeah. And his English is a second language, so it can be a little difficult, but let's go ahead.
Does he know how to say milk?
Let's go ahead and listen to Alex here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Leung. I'm an international student from Hong Kong. Well, it is understandable why some citizens who would support the bills when there are 60,000 gun retail deaths every year in America, including everything from suicide, gang violence, and self-defense. And after the mass shootings, the terrified young face on the TV screens move every one of our hearts. However, if Bill E2 SHB 1143, SHB 1240, or HB 1599 pass today, they will create more victims. The reason why I say that is based on the reports of as many as 2.5 million self-defense incidents based on the now covered up CDC studies. Maybe 2.5 million is just a number for some, but behind this number are millions of faces, including those who would otherwise be victims and their families. They could be your neighbors, friends, or family. Let's look at Corinne Bryan from New Jersey. She was still in the firearms waiting period before she was stabbed to death by her ex-boyfriend. Who are we to deny her right to save herself? Some believe that semi-auto rifle has no use to everyday citizens. So please allow me to introduce the Jeremy King family from Florida.
And then that's where he got cut off. There were so many people that wanted to testify that day that there was a 2-minute limit, so they had to be kind of strict on stopping. But
yeah, it's not like the Oscars. They don't start playing music. They just say, "Yeah, you're done."
So with Alex here, I thought it was good. He brought up facts, statistics, and then how how they play out real world. You know, showed an example of, you know, the lady that was stabbed waiting during that waiting period. So it's not just yelling this or yelling that. You know, he's being factual and bringing in the story to explain why this matters. You know, that's kind of how I took it. If you can, he's really nervous, and then with the accent, it's a little hard to understand, but I thought there was good information that he brought forward. And this is from somebody who he's a foreign student, you know, I'm guessing on a visa.
Robot in there.
I didn't know if that was him or me.
Yeah, Tim.
There we go. What? All right.
Did you move the rabbit ears around?
Wow.
Hold them right there. No, it's
Not
good.
enough.
Try
oil.
hitting it.
But and you guys, you don't have to stay muted during these clips if there's something that you feel you want to bring up. So I don't know, how did you guys take his testimony, if you could understand it?
I liked it. I'm really glad to have I guess foreign exchange student or that's not the right word, is it? Foreign student that's on a. I'm glad to have somebody that's. I can't talk.
From outside the United States, that's given the perspective of what we should be appreciating.
Yeah, exactly.
Just taking it for granted.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to him afterwards. I waited outside, and he had parked behind me. But I waited kind of around the steps for a while, and then just waited out in the car. And I don't know if he beat me to his car or if he got, somebody else was talking to him for a long time. I never saw him. And
he was inside going, some guy's waiting by my car and I'm trying to leave, but he's waiting by my car. And he was in the court and he seen me testify. Now he's waiting by my car.
And these are kind of the testimonies I think are really need to hear too, where it's not the same. And I'm not to disparage what's brought up as the typical NRA member, the white country boy hick. That's how our side is framed. And so I think people who aren't typically that testifying is important too. Because that also speaks to those who, that the grandmas out there who sitting around them and kind of talking to a couple of them beforehand, talking about college sports. They're not bad people. They don't hate you. They don't hate me. They just, maybe they don't know any better way to fix it. And being a grandma, well, if we get rid of the guns, that'll fix the problem. Where it's not fixing the underlying problems. So let's take a look at the second one here.
I hope that guy actually owns a gun. That'd be pretty cool. Second Amendment does apply to him.
Yeah, they can. Green card holders can own guns. So Gabriel Jacobs.
Morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Please do it.
So I'm Gabriel Jacobs. I'm father of three. Been volunteering with kids for 16 years. The reason I'm testifying today is basically to say that the people don't trust this House and Senate to make any decisions related to gun control or background checks. We just don't. The strange bills that are currently trying to be passed, like 5462, which allows the state to control all of the educational system, 1469, which allows other children from other states to flee here and be hidden, and 5599, which allows the state to hide our children from us and have them surgically manipulated and then return them or not. These are things that I consider tyrannical. And the purpose of the Second Amendment is to prevent tyranny. The government is supposed to be for the people, by the people, and it's supposed to be afraid of the people. Thank you.
So for him, I thought it was not a very good testimony. He's redressing his grievances, which that's part of the Constitution.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's not effective communicating. He is specifically talking to the Senate, the state Senate, and airing his grievances, but he's not. None of what he said in any way to me. I lost the train of thought there. It's not effectively communicating other than I'm upset.
Well, he's telling them that he doesn't believe that they're able to do their job, which I was going to say is valid. It's just not, I don't know the right word, but it's not on point to the topic of the day, but it's a way to show that there's a lack of, trust, whatever, lack of tolerance or whatever, like the right word is, like lack of comfort or whatever. I don't know. Can't think of the right word. It's late, but there's a lack of something from the constituency to the people doing this thing, and that has to be said too. Just saying, "Hey, it's my right," obviously isn't working. So challenging them on the whatever. I don't know. It needs to be said. I'm not saying that should be our only argument and then sit down, but I get you. It's not the hard. It's not the most effective one of the day or anything.
The old arguments that have been brought up forever, I think, still need to be brought up, but that's not. They need to be mixed in with other arguments.
His argument was pretty odd. I don't like the way you educate our children, therefore guns, and be scared of me. I don't know how he's going to convince anyone with that.
Well, he's not a single platform guy. I'm getting the impression from this. So it's he's not speaking specifically on this bill, like kind of G-Webs was saying. He's talking about them in general, But and that's I kind of brought this one up because it's not. I didn't think it's a great testimony, and like I said, he has the right to redress his grievances, and it's important to keep that right, and he did. For this context, was not effective. I didn't think was effective.
Well, yeah, they're gonna look at this testimony and be like, "Yep, you're the reason we don't want you to have assault weapons." Yeah.
And Eric Pratt.
Not that one though.
Yeah, this one. Well, I'll talk about it afterwards.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. Once again, my name is Eric Pratt. I'm out of the 24th District. I speak to you today. I had signed in pro on this bill because who doesn't want a more just legal system? Who doesn't want a more balanced legal system, a fair and legal system? And it seemed like that was the case, that this helped a little bit, helped sort of mitigate some of the damages caused by some overreaching laws. However, I would like the record to change my position to a con position. And why? Because enhancements are a good preventative measure, I would think. You know, if we're continually feeding these criminals this idea that they can just sort of have guns in their possession while they do these crimes, and it really doesn't have any long-term effects. I mean, what is to prevent? Okay, if the idea is to prevent crime, what is to prevent them from thinking twice about bringing this to whatever it is that they're going to do? And the reason that's important is because then a gun isn't introduced, perhaps, hopefully, in these unfortunate criminal situations. That seems like it would reduce, potentially, the risk to our law enforcement and the public in both situations. Now, if they don't have to think twice about having a gun, they'll just take one with them to do whatever it is that they want to do. And then all of a sudden we have a gun introduced into a very deadly situation. So anything to prevent that from occurring would be beneficial, I would think. Now, aside to that, and on top of that, I think it's interesting that we have two fronts today. One is restricting law-abiding citizens and their ability to have firearms. And I think that's an important thing to consider when we look at this and how we craft these bills. And the other thing is we're reducing the sentence from the criminal side. We're reducing the impact on them. So as a law-abiding citizen myself, who's just sort of sitting here in the middle, I feel the walls closing in on both sides.
Thank you,
side,
Eric.
you're allowing.
And this Eric was one I brought up because I think he is representative of the middle. You know, he's not anti-gun, not pro-gun.
He's not anti-gun, but he wouldn't say he is. He would.
Yeah,
He doesn't want to be
Where-
anti-gun. He just has an anti-gun position because he hasn't thought about it.
and this was for the sentence enhancements bill.
Yeah.
He had testified earlier on the other bill and had more of a pro-gun stance, and then this
He's
one,
like, well, murder's illegal, but that's not going to change their mind. And, doing this is illegal, like whatever other thing they're going to do is illegal. That's not going to change their mind. But you add an enhancement that makes it where if they got a gun, then they're going to change their mind about bringing a gun. So they're still going to do the murder, which is illegal, and they're still going to do the other thing, which is illegal. But now they're not going to bring the thing. Like he's got this like crazy scenario of like 14 criminals that are in this situation where they're going to make a decision based on, we might get maybe if we bring the gun on the bus, we'll get an additional crime. Like, come on. I don't know what he's thinking. Like kindergarten version of CSI, like 1950s CS, like 1950s cop shows or something. Like, I don't even know a reality where that could be logical, not a child's,
Yeah, it's not a deterrent.
that was another reason why I clipped his, was because what he's saying doesn't make any sense at all.
But he hasn't thought it through, so to him it's like, yeah, makes sense, I guess. This is it was either presented to him or he came up with it, and he's allowed to present it. But yeah, it'd be cool if he was able to have a conversation and figure out that doesn't actually work like that.
And like I said, I think he is kind of representative of the middle, where they want people to be safer and they don't know how to do it, and maybe this will do it, so why don't we do it?
I'm okay with enhancements in some cases, but I'm not a fan of mandatory in all cases. I'd rather have the judge decide given the facts of the case.
Look, I don't drive. I don't have a car, but I don't have a problem with if there's some kind of a cutoff switch in a car and you can't turn it on until you've told this court that you're not drunk. Like, I don't care if that's there. If it saves one life, like this guy doesn't see the negative side of whatever this like fantasy he's got that like, I know how to solve this. Let's just make it impossible for him to do it. So let's just make it so nobody can drive until the state tells them it's okay to drive every time they start their car. Like he doesn't think of the other side of that, or it's not possible, or that it would be massive inconvenience for everybody, or it would be super costly, or all three.
Next one is Jeremy Slotnick, and this one's a shorter one.
Thank you very much. My comment is brief. I do not support this legislation. I do not understand why we have bills like House Bill 1240 and 1143 that impact law-abiding citizens, but yet on the other side of the fence on HB 1268, we want to remove the felony enhancement for use of a firearm by criminals. We want to impact laws or create laws that impact law-abiding citizens, but yet on the other side, we don't want to enforce those laws against actual felons that are utilizing firearms in the commission of a crime. This does not make sense to me. If it is about saving lives, we need to be on one side of the fence or the other. We can't. You can't have one side and then have the other side. They're dichotomous. So I am asking my legislators to please vote no on this legislation. Thank you.
I liked his. It's short. There's not a lot of information in there, but he's, and I don't know him. I've never talked to him, but to me, he seemed upset, kind of angry, but not out of control. So he's projecting the frustration, but making good points.
Yeah, I guess he's for the enhancements. He's against the idea of removing enhancements for gun owners.
So it would have been a misdemeanor, but you had a gun on you, therefore it's automatic felony.
Oh shit, that's ridiculous.
It's like, oh, you're selling a joint and you have a firearm on you, felon.
Oh, you're speeding and you have a firearm on you, felony.
Yeah, fuck that.
And that's
you're
kind of
selling milk and you got a gun on, like
raw milk, right?
You know? Oh, you're selling a cigarette loose and you got a gun on you.
Well, he won't be a felon. They'll strangle him.
Well, you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm just trying to pick examples of dumb things that you could be standing there. What if you're just standing there and then something happens in front of you? And like, oh,
yeah, if you commit a misdemeanor, it should be a misdemeanor.
And that's kind of points that did come up during the hearing. How I think the representative that had brought the bill forward talked about the enhancement stacking. Even if it's just one incident, you can have multiple enhancements stacked on top of it, where you end up with these outrageous amounts of time for a crime where nobody was injured, nobody was hurt, but they had a gun with them.
Yeah, and these are just feel good. These aren't people that know how the system works. These are people that are like, oh, something should be done. Let's do something. And we can do this. It's in front of us. I can act. But it was short, and he said his point clearly.
So next one is Aaron Lee.
Oh, before you hit play.
Oh, yeah.
When I insult the guy's argument, I'm not insulting him, just in case anyone that testify watches our show, which is slim chance. But I don't know any of these people. It's not personal attacks. Just I'm going off your argument.
Here's who I'm attacking personally. Whoever made the decision to only show the testifier. I've been watching Worthwhile Fun, and she's testifying in Missouri lately, like recently. And they show her picture in a picture, and then they show the people that she's testifying to. So, like this picture right here is the couple of people sitting in the room, the Congress people that they're testifying to.
Mm-hmm.
When they testify, I kind of want to see the person testifying, but I could almost care less. I want to see who's paying attention and how much they're paying attention and what the other people are doing, right? Because they're the ones who we're paying to do the job here. The testifier is a regular person exercising their right. That's nice. But I want to see what the people that we're paying or your people are paying. And I want to see who's paying attention to these and who's reacting, like who's anyway, I think that's something I just wanted to bring up.
Oh, as a side note, the blonde lady in the back row with the black in the red scarf.
Yeah, she keeps
I-
calling me.
I believe she is the senator that last year said constitutionality is in the eye of the beholder.
Cooterer? Is that her name?
Something like that.
Patty?
I'm not
I'm not going to return her calls then.
not absolutely positive that's her, but I'm pretty sure that's her. So Aaron Lee.
I probably got the name
My
wrong.
name is Aaron Lee. I'm out of the 44th district. I'm a bisexual male, member of the LGBTQ plus community, and I'm here to urge you to not pass this bill 1143. It creates a very unclear set of guidelines regarding what training is needed, who would give it, how we know they're qualified to give it, and under what circumstances to get a permit. On top of that, or permission in this case, on top of that, in places like Seattle, there are no training facilities within the city limits at all. You have to go 10 miles just to get to the closest one. And to do that on, say, if you don't have a vehicle, which unfortunately there's a large number of people who do rely on public transit in the cities here, you will find yourself struggling to take any firearm for live fire training there without a permit to begin with. This creates a very dangerous problem for us, as we end up either having to once again look at breaking a law or following it and not being able to follow the other part of the law. Again, at the end of this, we also have the problem of the previous legislative efforts to establish training in single points of contact have yet to be implemented yet. And while we've heard supposedly they're supposed to come up the beginning of next year, they said that 2 years ago and it didn't happen, leaving very little confidence that this one will be set up when they claim. While I understand the need for as a firearms owner for training, I believe people should be able to should do so at their own behest through the methods they see fit and can afford. But I thank you for the ability to speak, and once again urge you not to pass this bill. Thank you, and have a pleasant evening.
So with Aaron, at the beginning, he brings up that he's part of the LGBT whatever community. And in everyday life, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But here, in this context, I think it is good to make that known, because it shows that it's, again, it's these other communities. It's not just this, the straight white male hick that care about these issues. It's everyone that cares about these issues, and it's good for them to hear these other voices supporting the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I really like that testimony. You have a great point. The same side that is saying the country's being taken over by fascists is also trying to disarm the people that the fascists supposedly want to kill. That doesn't make a lot of sense. The fuck are they thinking?
And this, I kind of mixed up some of the bills. This is the bill that
Pre-purchasing training.
Yeah, was supposed to have the purchase permit in it that was taken out. The other one was had to do with the background checks, and because it's all going to be done by our state patrol, so it had to do with that stuff. But
do they even exist anymore? Never seen them.
Yeah, I still see them. So this has to do with background check, 10-day waiting period on everything, purchases and transfers, mandatory training, and there's a set. I think there's for the training, it has to be done by what the state considers qualified organization, something like that. And they didn't have who that is, but they were going to submit it to the senator that asked about that. They wanted to double check to make sure they got their information correct.
From what I understand, it'll be like 1639's requirements for a semi-auto rifle, except for everything.
Yeah, and I don't know if I said a mandatory 10-day wait.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
We had Vanessa Kitty out there and the goddamn bacon. Did I miss any? Oh, Gunmetal Guy USA. I think that was everybody else that came in while we was talking. So the next one is the Washington State NRA president, something like that. And her name is, I think it might be Irish, Abheen. She says it, but it's kind of like Abigail Sorsha, where it doesn't sound like it looks.
Good morning, Chair Dingra, honorable members of the committee. For the record, Avian Klein, State Director for the NRA, in strong opposition to House Bill 1143. To quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., "A right delayed is a right denied." The mandatory 10-day waiting period imposed by House Bill 1143 is arbitrary and an unnecessary delay on an individual's ability to exercise their fundamental constitutional right to keep and bear arms. The average time to crime with a firearm from purchase to commission of that crime in Washington is 8.8 years, according to ATF data. This arbitrary delay is not only unconstitutional, but it puts lives in danger. Lives like a woman in a domestic violence situation who fears for her life and is under imminent threat by her abuser. If a background check is completed and the state and federal government have determined that this woman is lawfully allowed to possess a firearm, that transfer should be allowed, and it should be required to be processed. A further delay is a right denied. Background checks don't necessarily stop criminals from getting firearms. Federal studies have repeatedly found that persons imprisoned for firearm crimes get their firearms through mostly theft, the black market, and straw purchases, all methods that are already illegal under state and federal law. But perhaps the most troubling provisions of this mandatory training is the mandatory retraining requirement. I will note that I do not know of a course currently offered that covers the extensive requirements under this bill. More importantly, I do not know of any other constitutionally protected right that is required to be freely exercised. There is no training requirement for the exercise of free speech, for voting, or choosing your church. This bill will not save lives, but it will violate the Constitution. There is no text, history, or tradition of regulating firearms in the manner proposed by House Bill 1143. We therefore urge your opposition to this bill. Thank you.
For her, there's a lot of good information in there. The delivery is very robotic. That's the one problem I have.
I bet she's reading.
She's definitely reading, but she's trying to get it into the 2 minutes. You can tell she had a lot to say, so she figured out how to say it quickly. But go back to the beginning and have her say her name again.
Good morning, Chair Dingra, honorable members of the committee.
Oh, sorry, I got to share it, don't I? Oops.
It was working.
What the hell am I doing?
I don't know.
Lost. All right, one more time here. All right. Well, I didn't share it, did I? All right.
Good morning, Chair Dingra, honorable members of the committee. For the record, Avian Klein, State Director for the NRA.
Avia, it looked like A.O. behind.
Yeah. That's why I thought maybe it's an Irish name, because there's lots of Irish names that are like that. That there's a whole bunch of extra letters in there.
16 letters, and it's like, I'm Avery. Like, no, you're not. You're Avo behind. Okay. It might be like a shortened way of saying it too.
And one thing I picked up on her testimony too is she must. I don't know if she gives a lot of speeches to a live audience, in person. While she's talking, she's looking like you do when you're speaking, because if you need to look around if you're giving a speech, so everybody feels engaged. Because if you look straight ahead or just look down, you'll get a lot of people that tune out because you're not looking at them. And while she's talking, you see her look left and look right, even though she's talking to a screen.
I bet that's because we've only been doing the virtual testimonies for the last 3 years now.
Yeah,
because I've seen her testify before.
I'm not criticizing that part. It's just something I picked up.
Hmm.
Picked up on. I thought it was interesting.
It's nice of the NRA to testify, though.
That was kind of what got me thinking about all of this, and we were kind of going to do more into the big organizations, and we might put that off for a couple chats later. I know G-Webs has been digging into the fundraising and stuff, and we'll use that if we don't use it tonight, which we probably won't. But the NRA is consistently the national organization, even though this is the state representative, who shows up to these hearings.
Yeah, in Washington. A lot of people have written us off.
This one, I think because of the assault weapons ban, there were more. But the NRA is the ones that show up. And, standing around the last hearing before this one, I heard guys talking, is the NRA here yet? So, they were expecting them, waiting for them. And that's the face that they see is the NRA showing up,
And you mean the antis were saying that?
No, the pro.
Oh, okay.
They were looking for the representative because that's who they expect to see there. They weren't saying was the GOA here, is the, you name the organization here. That's the only organization I heard brought up was the NRA. And, that's besides any of the Wayne LaPierre stuff, what we're not talking about that right now, but they show up, so take it how you will.
I do have a question for you. You watched all of them. What was the percentage of virtual to in-person testimony? Is it 95% virtual?
Maybe 50-50-ish, probably.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. But I don't know.
So it's getting back to normal.
Yeah, sort of. But like I said, there were, this is only a minority of the people who wanted to talk. So I don't know the breakdown of the rest of and there was an overflow room who I don't know the makeup of those in the overflow room. It was kind of sprinkling, so I didn't look behind me. I was right in the doorway to stay out of the rain. Next one is Brian Coullough.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Brian Coullough, and I'm here my opposition to Senate Bill 1143 on behalf of the Black Gun Owners Association. BGOA works and empower Black gun owners, and we believe Senate Bill 1143 would restrict that. This bill, say it again.
Oh, no, go ahead.
This bill would have a disproportionate impact on law-abiding citizens and would not effectively address the root causes. In Washington State, there are 10.9 per 100,000 firearm injury deaths, 451 per 100,000 infant mortality deaths, 22 per 100 drug overdose deaths. An infant is 41 times more likely to die. A person is 2 times more likely to die from drugs. The top 10 leading causes of death in the state of Washington exclude firearms deaths. 7 of 10 are health-related. Why focus the energy on a boogeyman? Why make law-abiding citizens wait 10 days? Can anyone define the how and why behind the 10 days? The statistics should dictate the focus. And if the goal is to prevent death, then this bill falls very short of achieving that goal. The attention and energy should be on the issues that will have a real impact: health, mental health, and safety. Lastly, 10 days, absolutely nothing to a criminal. 10 days would not have stopped the Buffalo shooter. 10 days would not have stopped the Uvalde shooter. 10 days without it stopped the Charleston 9 shooter. All of these were premeditated. I believe that that it is crucial to respect the rights and freedoms enshrined in the Constitution, and that any legislation aimed at addressing the issue of gun violence should be carefully crafted to ensure that it does not infringe on the rights of law-abiding citizens. I believe that the focus should be on evidence-based solutions that address the root causes of violence, such as improving access to mental health services, addressing poverty and inequality, and strengthening our communities.
Holy shit.
I thought another really good one. And he laid out a lot of information, but didn't sound rushed.
No, that was the best 2 minutes of data yet. You should get it.
Yeah, that was perfect.
And then G-Webs, if any of these clips that you want, I can send them to you.
Yeah, definitely send me that one. That one's worth taking a transcript to do something.
And again, this is, there's a lot of good information that he brings forward, and then who it's coming from, the Black Gun Owners Association, because one of the things that you'll hear in these hearings from the anti-guns is how how gun violence affects Black and brown people. And so this is a counter argument to them directly.
And he brings up an amazing point about this stupid waiting period. It's like, it's premeditated. You could have a year waiting period. They'll just wait a year and then do it. It's not going to stop them.
Or use a hammer.
Oh yeah.
If you can suggest that the industry is at fault for marketing, then when is the media at fault for there's documented proof that they've spent more time and attention on spree killings with firearms than literally anything else. So if the firearm is to blame, at what level is the media to blame?
I agree with you. I got to stop that one. And
Doesn't Bloomberg own a bunch of media? How cool would it be if his media had to pay for all the money that he has got from profiting off all of this?
Next one is Carol Mitchell.
Good morning, Chair Dingra and members of the Senate Law and Justice Committee. My name is Carol Mitchell. I'm an attorney that lives in the 29th Legislative District, and I'm the founder of the Institute for Black Justice. I'm actually here today because my family's experience with gun violence is not about statistics. It's not about a right to carry. It's not about a right to bear arms. We are not out there hunting elk or showing off our antique guns in beautiful oak cabinets. For Black and brown families and for my family, the choice you're making today is a matter of life and death. In 2022, a young man named Curtis lost his life to a law-abiding citizen carrying a gun. He was only 28 years old the night he got into a dispute with that law-abiding citizen. And from what we understand, that person should never have been able to legally possess a gun. Had House Bill 1143 been in place, Curtis might still be alive. The Constitution should also protect my nephew's life and other young men and women's right to live. We certainly wanted Curtis to live beyond his 28th birthday. And the training requirements, the waiting requirements, the background check of House Bill 1143 might have made that more likely. So I implore you to support House Bill 1143 today, and thank you on behalf of our family and on behalf of Curtis.
Now, she is an anti. She supports the bill, but I wanted to show hers because of what she says, and this is kind of atypical not atypical. This is typical for the anti-gun side. Is they'll talk about a tragedy. And in this case, the story that she tells, she says a law-abiding gun owner, and then says that they shouldn't have been allowed legally to have a gun. So they were not a law-abiding gun owner. And then you don't know the context of the story. Why was there that conflict between the two? Who started it? What was it over?
Probably because of the gun. They were probably fighting over the gun, or maybe
You don't know. What?
I'm sure the gun started with that.
What the story is. So I'm not discounting her story. I'm just asking. Was he the aggressor, and the person carrying the gun defending themselves, or were they?
Yeah, we don't know the facts.
Yeah. Was it just the two fighting over a woman? You don't know. So you can't take this story at face value. And then she brought up the black and brown community, which...
Yeah, first I thought she was going to say that black and brown people needed guns to defend themselves, not to have as collections. That's where I thought she was going. I was like, nope, guess not.
No, they're not allowed to have collections either, according to her.
And then she doesn't make any definite statements where everything is this may have, this might have. She's not saying this will. It's, well, if we do something, it could help.
Yeah, it could have helped him. And in her own testimony, she said the guy shouldn't have had a gun anyway. So which is it?
Yeah.
Sounds like we already have gun laws that should have prevented what happened, and they didn't because they don't work.
And that's, part of the reason I wanted to show hers is so we could analyze what's being said and how to look at what she's saying.
So what was I going to say? You're allowed to, in a free country, right? You're allowed to have a life, what's the word? Like a position on life that says, if something's going to happen and no one's got guns and everybody's just going to fist fight, then that's better than if somebody's going to, let's say that something's going to happen and somebody's going to pull a gun and somebody's going to die. And then they're going to say, well, there was no reason to kill somebody over such a trifling thing. So even though that position isn't agreed upon by everybody, they're allowed to have that position, aren't they? And that position is contrary to other people's position on things. But I mean, they're allowed to have that position and then not be able to enunciate it. I don't want to assume that's the position, but I'm just saying if that's the case, then I don't want to assume that because we're willing to take personal responsibility and other people don't see that. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm getting it across, but I'm just saying, like, I want to be, I don't know if it's aware is the right word, of like somebody's life position or whatever that is, like being different. And like I've met people that go, okay, well, if I get shot, then that was my time. Like they don't have any interest or inclination to want to defend themselves. And then they want to believe have the conversation because then they want to push that on other people. Well, I don't feel like I should defend myself, so I don't think you should need to defend yourself either. I don't think taking a life is the right way. Like, so therefore you shouldn't be able to take a life.
I've used that argument that you just said for why I carry 1911. It's like, well, if I run out of ammo, I guess it's my time. I only got 8 rounds.
But I mean, people have had that position. So I'm just saying, I'm familiar with people having like weird positions. And it's like, at some point you got to go, all right, you're allowed to have a weird position. But then if I'm allowing you to have that weird position and I can understand it, then why don't you give me the same respect or us the same respect of understanding our position and then fucking respecting it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's part of your freedom is you can hate the Second Amendment or I don't, that might be a strong statement. And I'm not applying it specifically to her, but you don't like the segment, you don't like guns.
Some people
you don't like this,
right? Not her, but some people may hate it. Yeah.
And whether you don't like free speech, you don't like freedom of religion, you have the right to have that opinion. But when you're pushing for disregarding the Constitution, more than just, stating your opinion and you think everybody should have an opinion. But, when it moves into legislation, then that's where it starts to cross the line. Until the Constitution itself has changed.
That's probably the next end game, right?
I did.
Look how fast alcohol got outlawed with Big Push. It can happen.
It can. So the next one is Crystal Lapalato. And G-Webs is going to love this one.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Crystal Lopalato, and I serve as policy counsel for Everytown for Gun Safety. And I want to take a moment briefly just to say thank you to Ms. Mitchell for sharing her story and acknowledge her loss. I'm here in support of HB 1143, an important bill that will strengthen Washington's gun safety laws by expanding firearm safety training requirements and creating a 10-day waiting period for all firearm purchases. Requiring firearm safety training for handgun purchases closes a dangerous gap in Washington law. While some gun owners seek to educate themselves about firearm safety, not everyone does. In fact, a 2017 study found that almost 40% of firearm owners have not received safety training. This bill expands the current training requirements, which already exist for purchasing a semi-automatic assault rifle, to all firearm purchases. It's common sense that people purchasing pistols should also receive training in basic things like firearm safety, secure gun storage, safe handling of firearms, and suicide prevention. The training required under this bill would also specifically require training on critical topics for firearm owners, like how to manage a violent confrontation, techniques for avoiding a criminal attack, and ensuring gun owners have an understanding of when deadly force is allowable in self-defense. This is a smart and popular policy. In a recent national survey, 81% of respondents said they strongly agree that individuals should receive training before owning a firearm. The bill also wisely expands the current 10-day waiting period applicable to semi-automatic assault rifles to all firearms. Waiting period laws create a buffer between temporary suicidal ideation and access to a firearm. This can be the difference between life and death. We urge your support of HB 1143. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
81%.
No, I was wondering why I was going to like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, she, of course, is supporting the bill. She is anti-gun.
Yeah, she did all right getting the information across.
Well, her style, she has a smooth, calm demeanor, which is...
She can emphasize without going crazy. It doesn't, she had a good delivery.
Yeah. And then, she starts out by saying, addressing the, I forgot the organization, but the lady that, the one that we had just shown.
Mitchell.
Another testimony.
Yeah. Saying, I'm sorry for your loss, and
the good news with these people is they're all getting paid by the 14th richest person on the planet to have this job. So they don't have any hurt and soul in it. Probably they can be paid to have the opposite opinion tomorrow.
Yeah.
NRA should hire for Washington State Rep.
But I just kind of wanted to show her because of her delivery.
Yeah, exactly. And what, she's in some room? She's just in some...
Yeah, if you look off to the right, I don't know if those are awards or diplomas.
Degrees.
On the wall. Yeah. You can't quite see
stock in some kind of industry given to her by the 14th richest person on the planet for doing this job.
I was kind of wondering if I ever get an office and I put up my every 5 years, I think it is, my work will give me an award, framed award, saying, you made it 5 more years. Thanks. If I put those behind me, will that make me look important?
Yeah. Fuck.
So
how much do you think they're paying her?
When they gave you guys the first wave of all that stuff, they from what I understand, Bloomberg bought every marketing firm in the state and put them all on the job of giving you your first assault weapons. Man, is that the first thing that hit you? Like
1639.
Yeah, 15.
First thing we lost was they hit us with universal background checks.
No, it was universal background checks. That
Yeah.
one was a ballot initiative, and the strategy was to Bloomberg just paid every marketing firm in the state to do the same thing to make that happen. And then it was like, okay, that worked. So let's go to Nevada, carbon copy it, just email it to Nevada. And then Nevada was like, okay, and it worked. And then they were like, except that this is the one from Washington, so I can't use it, so I'm not gonna. But otherwise, it would have worked. If they weren't idiots, it would have worked. If they would have edited it to make it work in Nevada, it would have. The strategy would have worked.
The marketing firm, that'll come up a little bit later. And for those out in the live chat, I'm not ignoring you. I'm kind of reading as we're going along, but I'm not addressing the comments out there just so we can get through this.
I'm ignoring every third comment, but I'm aware of the other comments.
Just post the same comment 3 times. He'll read it.
So the next one is Corey Malone. Malone?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Corey Mallon from District 39 up north in Arlington. I am here today in opposition to House Bill 1143. To be frank, I'm both astonished and appalled that this bill has made it as far as it has. It may interest you to know that I came into possession of a number of emails via a public records request that are related to the creation of this bill, which are quite troubling. These emails are between Representative Berry, Everytown for Gun Safety, consulting firms, R&J Strategies, and Insight Strategic Partners, as well as Senator Solomon, just to name a few. In these emails, among other things, this bill is described as, and I quote, pay to play. Aside from setting up this scheme, there was lots of concern about the impacts of Bruin on this proposed legislation. However, another piece of legal precedence was ignored entirely. Back in 1943, the case of Murdoch versus Pennsylvania found that a state may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right granted by the federal Constitution. Even after all the revisions, that is still exactly what this bill is attempting to do. It is ultimately a pay-to-play scheme. As this is the Law and Justice Committee, I sincerely hope that this body takes this legal precedence under advisement and does not move this bill forward. This bill, even if passed into law, is destined to fail. Please vote no. Thank you for your time.
That was something I had never thought of as Freedom of Information Act to look into the drafting of the bills.
Yeah, brilliant. I hadn't thought of it either, but that's the kind of stuff we need is like a bunch of people doing a bunch of things all the time, all at once to let them know that they're constant, that nothing they do is hidden, that everything they do is transparent, and that they're working for the state, and that whatever they're doing with their own agendas is going to be, figured out, and there's going to be consequences. Because the way you stop this from happening is by figuring it out and putting something in place so that the people who are doing it get held accountable, and then people won't, show up next and assume that they can do the same thing, or show up 10 years from now and try to duplicate it.
Yeah, that was pretty damn clever of him. Bravo, man.
Next one is Jacob Evans.
Speak today. I'm here to speak against Bill 1143. My name is Jacob Evans. I'm a Navy veteran, and I was born and raised right here in Washington. Unlike celebrities, politicians, and the ultra-wealthy, I cannot afford to hire my own private security. I have to rely on my right to keep and bear arms. Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution says this of the right to bear arms, and I quote, "The right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired, but nothing in this section shall be construed as authorizing individuals or corporations to organize, maintain, or employ an armed body of men." The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be impaired, shall not be infringed. Supposedly, you all have sworn an oath to support the laws of both the U.S. Constitution and the Washington State Constitution. Therefore, I find that it needs stating that the act proposed in Bill 1143 both infringe and impairs not just my rights, but the rights of every law-abiding citizen here in Washington. Mandatory training and a permit to exercise a constitutionally protected right. I ask you, Senators, when was the last time someone needed training and a permit to exercise free speech? How about training and a permit to practice one's religion? There are already rigorous checks and controls in place to keep lawfully acquired firearms out of the hands of criminals, but criminals by their nature do not obey the law. Criminals get their firearms the same place they get any illegal goods, illegally, either through theft or through black market trade. Penalizing and criminalizing law-abiding citizens and restricting their ability to exercise the right to keep and bear arms only serves to put their lives in danger. The historical basis for gun control is rooted in racism, sexism, homophobia, and anti-religious bias. Every Town for Gun Safety and Giffords Law Center would like you to ignore that fact.
Jacob, could you wrap up, please? Your time's up.
Please support and defend the Constitution and vote no on this bill. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I really liked his. He had good pacing, good information, a good voice.
I didn't like the part where he's from the Navy, but I'll let that pass, I guess.
What if he was a Navy SEAL? Does that change things?
No.
The only thing that if I were to critique him on his speech giving is to look up more, to look at them. But
yeah,
he had to read
the presentation, but for the record and to have it said, he said it very concisely. Yeah. It's my rights, my property, but he said it well in the way that it needs to be said on the record. And the part about, making sound and taking, you want to hit we're supposed to ignore it? Oh, I didn't read the side yet. We're supposed to ignore the comments. I'm sorry. No, that's a good point.
Here's Avian. I forget how she pronounced it. Klein again, the NRA representative.
Good morning again, Chair Degra, honorable members of the committee. For the record, Avian Klein, State Director for the NRA in opposition to House Bill 1240. House Bill 1240 is nothing more than a ban on America's most commonly owned, lawfully possessed, and operated firearms. The term assault weapon is a manufactured term. It's a term manufactured to garner fear. And House Bill 1240 takes this definition far beyond fear-mongering, applying it to not only AR-15s, but other rifles, shotguns, pistols, and even a .22 caliber long rifle. It would ban the shotgun I use every fall for duck hunting with my dad. It would ban, arguably, the firearm I carry every day for self-defense, a right guaranteed to me outside of my home. The text of 1240 declares that the legislature finds that assault weapons are not suitable for self-defense. Yet an AR-15 is the most popular self-defense rifle in America. More than 25 million are lawfully owned by Americans. The proponents of this bill want you to believe similar bans have been found constitutional. What they fail to mention is none of these laws have been upheld under the Bruin test, and there are currently at least 20 active court cases challenging similar bans under this new legal test, including right here in the Ninth Circuit. The passage of this bill will result in the inevitable expenditure of taxpayer dollars to defend its unconstitutionality. Semi-automatic firearms are not weapons of war. They are not fully automatic. They are not faster or more lethal. They are commonly owned and commonly used in self-defense. It was recently reported that the CDC removed statistics on defensive gun use over the pressure from gun control activists. I'd love to report on the number of situations where a firearm has lawfully been used to save a life. but because of gun control activists, I cannot provide accurate data for you today. You have heard that these are necessary in the interest of public safety. This argument is irrelevant under Bruin. Madam Chair and honorable members of the committee, you do not have to like Bruin. You don't have to like the right to keep and bear arms, but you swore an oath to uphold the constitutions of the United States and the state of Washington. The NRA urges your opposition to House Bill 1240. Thank you.
Yeah.
So again,
a
lot of good information in there. Just she does not. The presentation is not very good.
It was horrible. It was bad presentation, and then at the end she threatens them and is like all rude. Like that part was lame. I don't know where she was getting.
Hey Baron, can you grab Dan's? I didn't clip his, but we'll show that at the end. So I just I wanted to show hers again. It's really good information, just not presented well, and it sounds exactly like her other one, her other testimony, where it's the same kind of robotic. But she's there, so I'll give her that.
They're not bringing up. I mean, you were there, right? So were you picking ones that were unique, and then there was a bunch of them that were repeating each other, or were we doing a pretty good job of throwing individual reasons and individual arguments across to this committee so that they would actually get a nuance, like a lot of different opinion on why this is garbage?
Well, these were some of these are the best testimonies that were given, and I kind of chose them for either the information they gave or the way they gave it, good or bad, just to kind of look at what was said, how it was said, and kind
they
of
are going on deaf ears. Like the committee, it doesn't give a shit one way or the other. They're going to do what they're going to do, right? It's a done deal.
Yeah. So
so they're really just giving this to the record and to the people who might be paying attention. Yeah.
So maybe if I encourage everybody to go, if you can go to the hearings in your state, to go to the hearings, and if you want to testify, these are examples of good ways to do it, and maybe not as good ways.
I must have watched like 24 hours worth of hearings or more over the last couple of years, just watching 10 hours here, 8 hours here and stuff. They're not fun, but they are super interesting. You learn a lot about a lot of things. Like I can understand why politicians hate them, but also appreciate them.
Next one is Austin Harlan.
Can you imagine having to sit in a suit in this room all day listening to these? No matter which side you're on.
Am here in opposition of 1240. And according to the governor's office, their testimony in 1143, they also think that 1240 is not the most effective way to get this done. They think 1143 actually is. And I actually want to share a little bit of my personal story with you here. When I was 10 years old, me and my father, we came home from a bowling trip one night, and I was in the kitchen and I heard something coming from the back room. So I went back there to investigate what it was, and I walked into the bedroom and my mother was laying on the bed, laying in a pool of blood after she had shot herself. This was her first attempt at suicide. And even then, I couldn't blame the gun. At 10 years old, right? Was no different than the bed that she laid on. It was going to have been her, right? Because when you're a kid, your mother's perfect. So I blame myself through that. And that sent me down a road of self-destruction, drug abuse. It led me to walk the ghettos of Cali, Colombia, one of the most dangerous cities in Colombia, just to get away from the pain, right? And that's what a lot of people are dealing with right now, unfortunately, is the pain. It's not the gun. The gun is a tool used in the symptom of violence. What is causing the violence? That's what we need to be looking at, not the gun. The gun doesn't mean frickin' anything. People are in pain and they're screaming in silence. Nobody's listening. I've heard education 100 times today. Why is it only gun owners that need education? Why is everybody not paying attention to this? There's hundreds of millions of guns out there. The cat's out of the bag. We're not going to solve the problem, right? Let's educate ourselves on this issue. Everybody needs to be educated on this issue. Safety, respect for yourself, respect for your neighbor, and respect for your community. That is the only way that we will solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank
you.
That's
For
pretty
this
good.
one, he touched on some of the things which I thought were important also to, talking about the suicide part. And, he's relaying a personal story, which is what the other side does. And and he's a little bit nervous, could be formed a little better, but the elements of what he's saying is what was important. And he talks about when he said that the other bill was considered the better way to stop all the gun violence or crime or whatever, and that did come up by the people who drafted the bill. Said that basically the state, because our attorney general and the governor are pushing these bills, but that was the most effective way. The transfer bill about the 10-day waiting period and that would be the most effective bill to stop the gun violence and stuff.
Not that it would be effective. Of the three, it would be the most effective of the three.
When he presented it, he put it as the most effective way.
Yeah. So again, that's a lot different than this would actually do anything.
But for like I said, with the story that he relayed, that's important to bring forward in the context of being pro-gun.
Oh no, that's something that, unfortunately, I don't want to exploit it, but that's something that is one of the best things that's been. I guess it fell on deaf ears there, but that's something that is worthy of. If it was possible to use something like it, to do some, have that resource for a real testimony at the national level, so that gets heard by a bunch of people who need to hear it, because there's newscasters and there's strategists and there's people who are paying attention, and if they understand something like that there are stories, because they might not even understand. Again, if you
don't hear these stories
before, and you hear a story like that, and somebody who can say that, that might be so alien to them they never even considered that someone could say it's the same as the bed, because that's technically a perspective that's valid, and that challenges, that breaks some windows or whatever that's called, right? So I think that's worth it, or one of the better ones.
Yeah. Next one is Don Young, and this is a really good one. This is one of the best ones, I think.
The last one was one of the best ones, so this one has to be pretty good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Don Wynn out of Tacoma, Washington. I'm against 1240. I'm a first-generation American. My parents were refugees from the Vietnam War. My parents fled Saigon in 1979 in a boat. My parents taught me to keep up with politics and value history. And text, history, and tradition shows 1240 is not constitutional. The Supreme Court has other rulings against similar laws. History shows 1240 and its intent to ban common use firearms is not dissimilar to the 1994 assault weapon ban, which many studies showed no significant reduction in gun crime in the 10 years following. 1240 would prevent future generations of gun owners from the capability of self-defense, from modern effective hunting arms, from sport shooting. Most importantly, it keeps from the people a means to resist tyranny. Yes, resist tyranny. Growing up around Vietnamese, they talked about the hardship of living under a dictatorship and then suffering under a communist authoritarian regime. Don't patronize me about the government having our back. It didn't have the back of the South Vietnamese. It didn't have the back of the Kurds. It didn't have the back of the Afghan people. Don't patronize me that you need fighter jets or aircraft carriers to resist tyranny. My parents fled from a country where common people in sandals and rifles repelled the combined branches of the United States military. I also take affront to the provision of 1240 that allows law enforcement to have exemptions. Law enforcement, including the security details of a member of this very body. Common people of this state are citizens, not subjects. We are not second class to the will and interest of the state or law enforcement. We deserve the protection that you, the members of the Senate, get and will continue to get if this bill passes. Please do not pass 1240. Thank you so much for your time.
I really liked his.
Oh, yeah. That was great. I've seen him
like,
testify before. He always does good.
I like that he brought in, that it's not just self-defense, that, the original purpose was against, as a protection against tyranny.
Yeah, it was in case those damn Canadians came down too, right?
Next one is Knox Williams.
Dan's video is ready, by the way.
Okay, we'll do that one last. And it's these are against the assault weapons ban. I don't think I said that. This section.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Knox Williams, and I run an organization called the American Suppressor Association. I'm testifying today to offer our organization's concerns in opposition to House Bill 1240, specifically as it pertains to suppressors. If enacted as currently drafted, this legislation could create a de facto ban on suppressors for anyone who also possesses a semi-automatic firearm, even if the suppressor is not intended to be used on that gun. Let me be clear. A ban on suppressors would do nothing to stop crime. However, it would deprive Washingtonians of one of the most effective tools to protect their hearing. Call it a suppressor, a silencer, or a muffler, they all refer to the same thing, a device that reduces the noise of a gunshot to a less dangerous sound level. They do not silence anything. Nothing can eliminate the noise of a gunshot. That's why the CDC, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, and the National Hearing Conservation Association all support the use of suppressors as a tool to mitigate preventable hearing damage for law-abiding gun owners, hunters, and their dogs. According to the National Hearing Conservation Association, and I quote, although firearm suppressors do not completely eliminate the risk of noise-induced hearing loss for firearm noise, the risk can be significantly reduced. Persons wearing conventional hearing protection are not without risk of noise-induced hearing loss when using firearms. In other words, earmuffs and earplugs on their own are not always sufficient because gunshots are incredibly loud. In conclusion, they state, quote, using conventional hearing protection in conjunction with the suppressor can significantly reduce the risk of noise-induced hearing loss more than using either device alone. What this means is that even suppressed gunshots are loud enough that you should still wear hearing protection. Aside from hearing damage, how on earth could a noise that's loud enough to necessitate hearing protection pose a threat to public safety? Suppressors have been one of the most heavily regulated items in the country since the enactment of the National Firearms Act in 1934. They are controlled directly by the federal government at every step from manufacture to sale, no exceptions. Even the ATF acknowledges that suppressors are not a threat to public safety. In a direct quote, they state, quote, silencers are very rarely used in criminal shootings. Given the lack of criminality associated with silencers, it is reasonable to conclude that they should not be viewed as a threat to public safety. There are around 100,000 suppressors lawfully registered in the state of Washington. When was the last time one of these lawfully obtained suppressors was used in the commission of a crime? It is a false in search of a problem that does not exist. For these reasons, we urge you to oppose House Bill 1240, or at a minimum, amend the language pertaining to suppressors and threaded barrels. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And his is good. Lots of good information. It's rushed, and I know this is for getting it into the record. If he's giving it for people, with the 2-minute time limit, you need to cut the information so it's not as rushed. It's kind of a hectic speech, but and he's, this is a national organization which is here to testify, which is good. I'd like to see more of this happening. And when he brings up that the ATF says that suppressors are not a great threat, well, why are they still on the NFA if they don't even think that they're a threat? Well, I guess they're an NFA, but aside from that, I thought it was wanted to show this one because it's a national organization and there's the information that it brings forward.
And he's thinking this bill outlaws suppressors. Did I get that right?
No, what? Because you can't have a threaded barrel, so you can't use a suppressor because you can't thread it on.
What if you used like a tri-lug?
Well,
How do you
they
get
would
that
have
on the barrel? That has to screw
you would
on.
have to be threaded on.
Well, you just have to pin and weld it, right?
I don't know.
No.
I admit it would make things difficult, but it wouldn't outlaw suppressors,
No,
right?
no, but
A right delayed is a right denied.
Yeah, commie.
A right loudened, a right loudened is a right delayed. Wait, no, denied.
I was just making sure I was reading the bill right, but
that's
No,
the
he's
way I took.
basically saying, hey, you're going to make it so you can't have threaded barrels. Well, then you're also saying you can't have suppressors.
That's the way I took it. And so the next one is Michael Finlay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Michael Finley. I'm the the Director of Government Affairs, State Affairs for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. We're the trade association, the National Trade Association for America's firearm manufacturers, ammo manufacturers, retailers, and ranges. And I'm here to testify against this bill today. I've done this in multiple states in multiple years, and it just feels different this year. It just seems political, doesn't it? It seems like the firearms industry and the Second Amendment is the soup du jour, so to speak. And we heard all the facts today. We've heard corrected definitions of AR, and it doesn't seem that that's going to matter. You just heard an FFL tell a very personal story. His name is Austin Harlan. And I want you to keep that in mind as I tell you this, because I'm here representing the businesses. And when people look at our industry, they just think we're big corporations. We're really not. We're mom and pop stores. We're people that have spent their entire life building businesses, creating jobs, paying their taxes, following the law. And this bill, if passed, could really hurt their livelihoods. Over just nearly 4,000 jobs in the state of Washington alone, with direct wages of $170 million, economic output of over $500 million. A lot of this, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not all at stake, but a big chunk of it is. If this bill passes, there's an emergency clause on it, meaning that they will not have time to liquidate or get rid of a lot of their inventory. A lot of small businesses will be left holding the bag. And this legislature, by passing this bill will do one thing. It will hurt small business owners. It will hurt mom and pop stores. It will hurt jobs. Additionally, it will put people out of business. And that's not speculation. That's what happens when 20% of your business is on these type of products that you're banning. Keep that in mind, please. And I urge this committee to think about that and vote no on this bill. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, this was another one. It's the NSSF, so it's another national organization. So, they're the same that put on SHOT Show, for those who might not know.
He did a good job.
He did.
Much more natural.
Yeah. It sounded, I don't know. It
Human.
sounded
I like the part where he's like, which state is this? Because I've been doing this a lot lately. Here's the reason yours is going to fail.
I thought it was good. It's more, this one is, I think, more directly towards the legislators.
Another angle that they need to know, that they don't live in a vacuum and that they don't get to just make shit up, and they're going to be paying for this, and they're going to kill however much money he said, $500 million in the process. At least they're going to affect 20% of a $500 million industry in the state. And he could have said something like, and think about all the customers and how happy they're going to be. But yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah, under 1639, F of L's here, it is illegal for them to sell quote unquote assault weapons out of state to people that do not live in Washington. So if this goes into effect immediately, they will be stuck with their inventory.
Yeah. So if it goes up,
everybody's guns.
if it goes up for vote and passes, it could be enacted mid next month ish, somewhere in there. I think it's mid next month. The last one is Dan Mitchell. He's the owner of Sporting Systems in
Vancouver,
Washington, and he also now owns Minuteman Ammunition. But this is a good lesson on if you're pissed off and you want to tear a legislator a new one. This is how you do it.
So much. Next up is Daniel.
Daniel Mitchell, Vancouver, Washington. I plan to share a well-articulated legal argument here today, but I've watched this committee ignore logic for years, so I'll speak a plain truth. For Gregor, who can't replace his barrel because the part will be illegal. For Ryan, Brian, Jeff, Ari, Scott, Heidi, Katie, Jeremy, Anton, BZ, and thousands of others whose careers will be legislatively exterminated. For citizens unable to comply with the federal pistol brace ruling, for SBRs awaiting federal approval that cannot be delivered, for those who cannot retrieve their pawned items, those who want the most popular rifle in the country for any lawful purpose, those who wanted a small pistol for target shooting, now banned because it has a threaded barrel, for those already purchased an item but it can't be delivered due to a 10-day delay, for those shop owners who hold tens of millions of dollars of inventory that will be illegal to sell. Under 1639, it's illegal to sell SARs to a non-resident. We're in federal court on that one too. I'm speaking for our grandkids to preserve their constitutionally protected rights. The state has filed amicus briefs in federal cases nationwide. The state's argument is losing in all of those actions. Is there a miraculous new argument laying in wait? Your rush to be wrong, to be struck down in federal court here is strong. I know you need the photo ops, the virtue signals, and the victory dances. It's palpable. Oh, the press coverage you're going to receive is going to be so exciting. As federal New Jersey Judge Renee Baum said directly to the New Jersey Senate President 2 months ago, you should have known this was going to be challenged, done due diligence, and been better prepared under the direction of NYSERPA v. Bruin. Wow. You'll get your moment in the spotlight, but we will persevere. Every federal court in the country is showing it at this moment. We'll be back here on the steps of the Capitol. No cameras, no fanfare, no busloads of moms when this law is set aside by the federal court and your oath of office violation is exposed. I won't expect a congratulations cards, but until then, I'll see you in court.
Thank you so much.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, you could feel his anger, but he was not out of control. So those were clips that I clipped from the last hearings that I went to at the Law and Justice, whatever, our state Senate. And I would encourage, if you can go to hearings in your state, if you're coming up against these or any other bill that you support or oppose, I think it's good to be there. And for our, I don't know how other states work, but for our state, you can sign in to support or oppose on record, and then you can leave a comment when you do that, or you can sign up to testify. And I would urge anybody to do those if you can. And these, I wanted to bring these as examples so you can see what I thought were good examples, and then also a couple that were bad examples, or how the other side is presenting their argument. Just so you know, and this is just my opinion. These are what I thought. So, but I know I need to be more involved in what's going on, and I will sometimes get down, especially when our state passed the 10-round limit for magazines. That one, I almost say it hurt because, I was involved, went up to the hearings. There was a lot of opposition to it, and our legislation completely ignored it. Set a record for for comments on the bill opposing it, and they completely ignored all of that, and then got more seats in the next election. So,
yeah, that was pretty disheartening.
And so, I kind of got down and didn't want to be involved in anything. And then, like I had said, I was watching a Guns and Barbecue, one of his chats, and they were talking about some state stuff. And then it kind of shook me out of it, where it's like, well, no, I believe in, the Second Amendment. I believe in supporting it. That's kind of why I started the channel. So I need to get over it and then start trying to do something again. So, I would urge you to be a part. Even if you're going to lose, just stand up and be counted. I think that counts for something. So Guns and Water and Gary, we're out there, and I think we're going to wrap her up here. So that was a lot of comments. I think we're going to do an overnight next week. I don't know if we'll be able to do it the week after, so we'll shift it to next week.
What?
So the research that you did, G-Webs, we're going to use that here coming up. Probably not this coming up overnight, but maybe the one after that one. Still not real sure how to present all that information. But that is the information that, that when you're looking into the funding and stuff that I wanted to kind of look at.
Could present it in the like in a bracket type of layout.
Best gun org bracket.
Yeah. What about this one? GearWebsites.com for all your 2A related stickers, patches, t-shirts. He also does web design, tech consulting, you name it. He can probably hook you up. Yeah, I couldn't find a white van to use on the end of that one, so I went with that one.
The red one, yeah.
Yeah.
That was his old van. That one obviously crashed.
Now I sidetracked myself.
Every time I'm jumping a van over a lake, I'll use some other van so I don't ruin a good one.
Use your stunt van. I don't know. Is there anything you want to plug, G-Webs?
No, thanks for hosting again.
Oh, I know what I was going to do. I was going to do this one.
Disco is dead. Disco is not dead. Disco is life.
Wednesday nights, 10:30 p.m. Pacific is the Wednesday Night Mouse Party. It's a little more free-formish, just the time to hang out, have some fun. Baron, anything you want to plug?
Definitely don't join the Gilded server. We don't want you there. That's
Oh, there's There's a link in the description for the Gilded server.
The more people that leave, the better. I love it.
It's a place to hang out, chit chat with other people, and share pictures, memes, whatever. Just hang out.
Definitely do not join and get us to 50 members. I do not want that. I'll kick people out. I swear.
Oh. Yeah. So, where am I? What am I doing? I'm lost. Okay. Yeah. So be involved. Be very involved. It's your rights. Stand up for them. And
everything helps too. If you can't make it to the Capitol, spread the word. Somebody can make it.
And I think if you think of like, I don't know how to explain it, but I think that you don't know who you're going to affect when you do something. And it's not all going to be accomplished at once. It's not like if everyone showed up, then it would be accomplished and we'd never have to deal with stuff again. It's liberty requires eternal vigilance type of situation. So the long game, being in the game, is how you win. You don't win by crossing a finish line. You win by being in the game. So the way that the long game, the wars of attrition are won, is by generational, right? You're passing the baton so that the process is passed and it's not the individuals. So the people that show up and don't see immediate results, don't be discouraged. Your presence inspires and motivates others. The individuals who show up and aren't supported enough bring the droves of people potentially next time. And if they don't, then their absence creates the bad times, right? So right now you're dealing with the negative side of the whole thing, but don't be discouraged. I mean, you're not obligated. You don't have to show up. It's not like if you don't show up, it's all going to end. But at the same time, don't feel like your individual effort isn't useful or necessary, or not. I would say necessary like it's necessary, but you know what I mean. Like it isn't a big part of it, because again, you're going there and you're being there. So who knows who's going to see the coverage of when you're there and that kind of stuff. So I'm just saying, like, you don't always win, but being in the game is how we actually do win.
And if you're in Washington and you find me at one of the hearings, I'll give you a sticker. I keep stickers on me, so I'll give you a sticker. Other than that, I hope everybody has a good rest of the night and a good rest of the day.
I'm still here. It's over. Go home.